does that have the transliteration in it? Well, you might be able to read Hindi or Sanskrit, so
Yeah, I can read the Sanskrit.
But is there transliteration there as well, or
No,
no?
no transliteration.
Okay.
No, sorry, no transliteration. All I have is the definition and the.
I'm definitely sending that next week. I'm definitely sending that next week with also the Sanskrit breakdown too. So it's from a book called by Chris Chappell. So I'm definitely going to send that next week so we can all, because I want us all to chant these things, and I think that'll be nice. So, okay. Okay, so now we'll start with a guided meditation first. Let's start now.
Swami, not to interrupt, but I have a copy of the Panjalili Yoga Sutras PDF, and it has the transliteration, so I can drop the file in this chat if.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that'd be wonderful. Can everyone get a copy of that then? Okay.
Yes, I'll drop it in the chat now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That is great. Okay, so now let's start with our meditation that we do. Except for Jyoti, we don't want her to meditate right now. Be careful. So okay. So let's just first start with a chant. Om Jananim Sharadam Devi Ramakrishnam Jagat Gurum Padapadme Tvayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. Our salutations to the Divine Mother, the Mother of the Universe, who we take shelter unto. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avataro varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the avatar and Satguru of the age, the establisher of Dharma, and the protector of our lives. Namashri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Surupaya Swamine Tapaharine. And our salutation to Swami Vivekananda, the king of the sannyasins, and who is like the fire who brings renunciation and knowledge to the entire world. And I'll get these chants also next time. I think these chants are really nice. So I'll get the breakdown for those too, and we'll put that in the chat for next week. Because it's nice for us all to learn some Sanskrit slokas. It's nice. I think it brings some peace of mind. And so this is an easy way that we can all learn these things together. My hope is that when we're done with this, everyone will know at least gradually memorize the Yoga Sutras, which is really nice to do. And I've put a link if you can listen, there's a beautiful chanting on the YouTube. How many of you have been able to listen to that a little bit? Okay, good. That's good. That's good. Jyoti, please don't raise the hand. That gets us all a little anxious. I don't know if we'll have to be eyewitnesses or not if you're in a car accident. So now let's just do now. Let's just close our eyes and let's practice our guided meditation of gratitude and mindfulness. Again, the main thing to understand is without breath, we cannot be mindful. And without mindfulness, we cannot meditate. So let's first start with breath. Let's just first take deep breath. So let's just slowly relax ourselves. Just slowly breathe. When we breathe in, we can hold for 4 times and then breathe out. As we do it, we notice almost simultaneously the calmness starting to come. Let's continue with our breath and let's observe the calmness which comes into our breath and mind. As we breathe in, we're bringing in calmness, positivity, and strengths, the strength of our own selves. And as we breathe out, breathing out judgment, judgment towards ourselves, judgment towards others, all unpleasantness. We're breathing all of that out. Keep breathing. As we breathe, let's also feel, we can feel our diaphragm and our stomach kind of portending, breathing out. And then when we breathe the air out, breathing in again. As we notice the increasing calmness, we also understand that the breath can be our friend, and it's up to us to be conscious and to make the breath our friend by being conscious of it. Now let's begin with our gratitude practice. First, we can feel, if your shoes are taken off, you can feel your toes pressed against the earth. Just feel that for a moment. Feel the toes pressed against the earth. And we offer gratitude to our toes, which are always serving us, without which we would not be able to walk, which selflessly serves us without complaint, without asking for anything. So all we can really do is give it gratitude. Keep breathing. And then let's go. Let's feel the balls of our feet, our foot. Again, we can offer that gratitude to our feet. Full gratitude. And let's go up. We feel the ankles, the knees, the shin bones. All these things we thank for selflessly serving us. Let's go then to the thighs, legs, the buttocks, every part you feel. Our stomach, as we breathe in and out, we feel the stomach rising and falling. So we offer gratitude to all these different parts of the body. Our heart, which allows us to breathe, which allows us to live. Our lungs, which allows us to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Our hands, by which we perceive the world, we feel the world. Our wrists, arms, shoulders. And now we go to our face, our nose, eyes, mouth, all these different organs by which we perceive the world, and which will help us to realize God as well. We offer gratitude to all of you. Again, now we go to the brain, the mind. Swami Vivekananda used to say that we can have the blessings of the 330 million gods and goddesses of the world. But if we don't have the blessings of our own mind, it's all for naught. So we offer gratitude to the mind for being our friend and for helping us. Keep breathing. Now we offer gratitude to all our teachers, our parents, all our teachers from when we were a young toddler till now. Everybody, just offer gratitude and thanks and salutations to everyone who we ever learned from. And then comes our spiritual teachers. We can visualize them in our heart or mind and offer our salutations to them. And finally, this entire universe. And just picture the cosmos in your mind, the stars, which is blessing us. Without which life would not be what it is. We offer our salutations to the stars, the cosmos of the universe, for guiding us and giving us right judgment. And finally, we can picture our chosen Ishta Devata, whether it's Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Christ, Buddha, whoever it is. We can end there. We offer our salutation to them for guiding us and giving us this sacred space that we can share ideas together. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So slowly open our eyes, and it's actually this type of mind we need when we're approaching the scriptures. The mind should be, you see what we have now, we all can notice the difference. When we first walked in, the mind might be anxious, it might be judgmental, it might have so many different feelings. So how many could tell that? How many could tell the breath, the change in the breath from when we began to now? So that's an important thing, that we know these things, but we have to keep, it's good to practice these things in a community, because sometimes when we practice it by ourselves, we don't sometimes take so much acknowledgement of it. But through this, we can see the power of breath to be our friend and to bring us to the present moment. So we can, next time we get triggered, we get anxious, whatever, we can always bring it back to that. Now, that said, today we're going to discuss Sutras 4, 5, and 6 of the Yoga Sutras. Who here has the book in front of them, the PDF in front of them? I think Glenn does, right? And Lakshmi ji, you also have it? You and Chetan have it too? Okay. So anybody else Violet, do you have a copy? Okay, great. Okay. Violet, does that have the Sanskrit transliteration in it? Okay. Um, Violet, can you pull out on the chat? It's there. Would you be able to pull that out? Okay. So let's start. Let's start from the beginning. The first sloka we can all chant who has it. It's 1.1, and we can chant it together. And let's all chant it together. Atha yoga anushasanam. 3 times, let's practice it. Atha yoga anushasanam. You guys can unmute yourself too, so we all practice together. So I can also hear you guys too. Atha yoga anushasanam.
Atha yoga anusasanam.
Yeah, good. Okay, so what now? Can anyone say, you can look at it. What does that mean? Atha yoga anushasanam. What does that mean?
Now yoga is being explained.
Now, yes, now yoga is being explained. Atha yoga and anushasanam means explained. Atha is now. You might see that you could, you can write that word down, and if you look at the Gita, sometimes you'll see that word also used there, atha. It's like that type of, what do you call that in English? There's a name, that type of word, atha. Anyways, it means now. Now yoga is going to be, yogaha is going to be explained. And yoga, what does yoga mean again? What we talked about last time? It has two.
The union of Jivatma and Paramatma.
Union of Jivatman and Paramatman. And there's that's according to the Vedanta. Another term is concentration. And a third term is what takes place, what is the goal of yoga? Does anyone remember what that means? It comes from the dhatu yujir. I'll give a hint. What is the goal, ultimate goal in yoga? We have Purusha
and Prakriti.
And Prakriti. Okay. And okay.
So we realize the Purusha in us.
No. Does anyone else have to, that? Yes, that's the right, the experience Purusha. But Glenn, do you have anything?
Is it to yoke your the individual soul to the Atman, to Brahman?
Yeah, so that's not what we normally think of in Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. Violet, you have anything? Okay. Ratan, do you have? Yeah.
The Sankhya position is Purusha and Prakriti, but the Vedanta position is also Jiva merges in Paramatman.
Yes, but there's one fundamental difference here. The difference is this, that in yoga, this yujir means to separation of Purusha from Prakriti.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in Sankhya yoga philosophy, we hold that there's two eternal entities. Purusha, which is the Atman in Vedanta, and Prakriti, which is what in Vedanta?
Shakti.
Shakti.
What'd you say, Glenn?
Shakti.
Shakti, no. Shailesh, do you know? You want to say? You got, what was that?
Maya and Brahman.
Yes, Maya and Brahman in Advaita Vedanta. So that's Purusha and Prakriti. Now, the difference between Prakriti in yoga philosophy and Maya in Advaita Vedanta, Shailesh, do you want to say what that is? Okay, so in Maya has this Vikshepa Shakti and Aparana Shakti. It has these powers of projection and delusion, but it is ultimately unreal. In Advaita, there's only one entity permanent, that's Brahman, Atman is one. Advaita, Advitiyam, not two. That's what Advaita means, not two, only one. Okay, not two. But in Sankhya yoga philosophy, you have Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is our ultimate nature, but they also hold that Prakriti is real. It's an eternal entity, but it's jara, it's inert. And our goal is to do what? To separate ourselves from this Prakriti, this material nature. And this Prakriti includes what you call the different 24 different elements, which is this entire universe at the macrocosmic level. At the microcosmic level, it includes our asmit buddhi, asmita, our sense of identification with our intellect, mind, ego, this entire world. Anything we identify it, that's not our true nature is Purusha. So this entire universe, including us that's speaking, this is all part of Prakriti. Is that clear?
Mhm.
Another difference is that, and this is not something that we don't really care about too much, but in Yoga Sankhya, there's multiple Purushas. There's not just one, but there's multiple. So you're a Purusha, I'm a Purusha. But in Advaita Vedanta, Tattvamasi, thou art that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman. There's only one. There's not two. The ocean, the small drop merges into the ocean. So at that time when it merges into the ocean, it loses its nama, its name, rupa, it loses its form. It just becomes one with the ocean. Is that clear?
Mhm.
So that's the first sutra, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now let's go to the next one. Yogas Chitta Vritti. Let's all say together. Yogas Chitta Vritti
Chitta-vritti nirodha.
Nirodha. Again. Yogas
Yoga
Chitta Vritti Nirodha. One more time. Yoga
Chitta
Vritti Nirodha.
nirodha.
Okay, now what does it say? Who wants to say what that means? Yoga is giving us the definition of yoga. So what is yoga? You can read.
Chitta vritti nivritta, control of the chitta.
Yes, and what is it? Chitta?
Mind.
Chitta is the mind stuff.
Yes, the mind stuff. Yes. Okay, chitta is the mind stuff. Right. So again, so what we want, that's the ultimate goal. We want that the mind stuff be controlled, that the mind stuff not rise. That's not actually the ultimate goal. From that, then we attain this what they call asampragyata samadhi. Our ultimate goal is to be what? Realize ourselves as Purusha, which means to do what? Separate ourselves from Prakriti. Okay. Let's go to the next one now. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Let's do that together. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Let's do it again. Tada drashtu
Rupe
avasthanam. Do again. Tada drashtu avasthanam. Yes.
Rupe avasthanam.
Yes. Now tada means tada actually means then. Yada tada. So tada means or at that time then. And drashtuhu means the seer, which means the Purusha. Swarupe. Swarupe means in one's own nature. In one's swarupa, in one's own nature. Avasthanam. So one rests in one's own nature, which is Purusha. Which is this in some ways like the Atman. Similar, very similar. So you can see Swamiji says here, at that time, the time of concentration, the seer Purusha rests in his own unmodified state. As soon as the waves have stopped and the lake has become quiet, we see its bottom. So with the mind, when it is calm, we see what our own nature is. We do not mix ourselves, but remain our own selves. Okay. So we talked about that last time. Anyone have anything to Violet, what do you think of that? As soon as the waves have stopped and the lake has become quiet, we see its bottom. What do you make of that?
It's something that I can't do right now. I try to calm my mind and it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. You're right. It is hard, but it does. That's the ultimate goal, though. So that's what happens. So that's what and it doesn't come all of a sudden. But the good news, Violet, is that as we practice this, it gets easier. So it's not like all or nothing, but it's like from where we are right now, we make some progress towards that. That's the whole thing. So
Maharaj, I want to ask a question.
yeah.
When the mind becomes calmer and calmer and calmer, how long does it take to see the bottom?
That depends on how many desires we have, To the extent that our desires are mitigated, to that extent we can see the bottom. Otherwise, what happens is if we have desires, then we might see the bottom momentarily, but then the water gets muddled again. It's these desires that give the ripples that cause the muddiness of the mind. So that's our goal ultimately to kind of reduce that. I think there's some background noise. That's okay. So that's our goal ultimately, to try to reduce that. Yeah, to try to mitigate those money desirelessness. So that's why we say in Bengali nirbashana, which means desirelessness. So and how do we do that? I think as it's okay to have desires, but as we go through the desires, we should always apply our viveka, our discrimination. If it's like, say I had today shrimp or ice cream, okay, I wanted it so much, but what was that experience I really had when I had it? Analyzing, deconstructing these different experiences that we had, applying what we call our viveka. Did it give me permanent joy, or is it just something temporary? In this way, we have to keep playing with our different, when it's a work in progress, but in this way, we have to keep playing around with it.
Swami, but when you say apply viveka, what exactly it means? Is it unreal or real? Is that what it is?
Well, I think applying the viveka means that we have the experience. Say like I wanted ice cream, right? So I went and had the ice cream, then that desire was satisfied. But there's some desires I have. And we're going to get to the next one, but sometimes how do we get ultimately, what's the purpose of yoga? This separation of Purusha from Prakriti. What does that mean? That means two things. That means this virag. What Ramakrishna says, virag, that means detachment from the world and
Attachment to God.
anurag, attachment to God. So I think there's a Bible verse that God and man cannot go together because they'll be jealous of each other. So same thing, as we cut our attachment to the world, that attachment then goes towards God. So to the extent that I have desires towards this material world, to that extent that my desire towards God gets blocked. So it's like an inverse, that type of a relationship.
Swamiji, would this also apply to aversions? Because I hear that a lot as well. Avoiding, suffering or some bad time, applying viveka to that as well.
Absolutely. In fact, Glenn, that's a really good point, and we're going to get to that later on. But what we learned through the Yoga Sutras is that ultimately we want to avoid dukkha, but then finally, ultimately, we find that the yogi finds there's no difference between sukha and dukkha both. Why? Because dukkha gives us immediate pain, but also sukha, anything we enjoy, that also gives us pain ultimately because it won't last. It'll come, but it's also impermanent. So how long can we hold on to that?
Yeah.
So that's why Buddha, for example, he applied that viveka towards he was a prince, he had a beautiful wife, he had son, kingdom, and in that he applied his viveka. Not in suffering, but actually he found the suffering in that sukha. So the yogi realizes that there's not much, and we're all yogis here. All of us were spiritual aspirants. So we realize ultimately that, yeah, you know what? Even that which I wanted, it's okay, I had that, but then it didn't give that permanent joy. This is the process of viveka.
Swami,
Yeah.
talking about aversion, sometimes we don't want something, but then it's our own mind which starts.
Who's speaking? I can't see you.
This is why I'm sorry. I'm sitting in the car.
Oh, okay. You're like a voice without a form,
Yeah, because it's dark. In the car is actually my niece is getting married and they have a mehndi ceremony.
Okay.
So I'm like out by myself. Everybody else is getting the mehndi done.
Okay.
And so my
Okay.
mind is thinking, oh my God, they're going to think, oh, look at her, she is not participating. So
Yeah.
that's like a kind of mind vritti that's going on.
Yeah. So what were you asking, Swamiji?
So basically, yeah, same this sometimes aversion, this is where I want to be, but in my own mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, what are they going to think about me leaving a function to come and sit by myself in the car? So it's, I'm not able to relax.
Yeah, I understand that. And so those are different things we face, but that's something different. But I think for the yogi, ultimately, you see that we've reached a point then that, the society, and we see this in the gospel and the Swamiji's works again and again, that we find that as our mind gets less concerned about what others think, and we have to live our own life, and that's more important for us because life is very precious. Let's go to the next one now. This is 1.4. Vittisarupyam itaratra. Let's all repeat. I'll say it, then you all repeat it. Vittisarupyam itaratra.
Vritti-sarupyam itaratra.
Let's do it. Vittisarupyam itaratra.
Vritti-sarupyam itaratra.
One more. Vittisarupyam itaratra.
Vritti-sarupyam itaratra.
This is one of the most important sutras. At other times, meaning times that we're not identified with our Purusha. So this, at other times, which is itaratra, at other times, the seer, Drashtuhu, is identified with the modifications. Vritti sarupyam. Sarupyam means identified. Now, Swamiji says, for instance, someone blames me. This produces a modification, vritti, in my mind, and I identify myself with it, and the result is misery. Now, this is the main thing, actually, that we're all really suffering with. And you can say that this is one thing, the difference between one person and another, that how much are we identifying with our thoughts, our feelings, our impulses. This is what you can say is the soul cause. It is a long pendulum. On the one side, it could be just a momentary identification. And on the other end of that pendulum, it's addictions. Addictions to social media, alcohol, cigarettes. And we all go through it in different stages, in different ways, every day. This is really what you call the unconscious mind at its fullest expression. 1.3 was actually the conscious mind. 1.4, always identifying with every single feeling or impulse. Let's not look at ourselves. How many of us, let's raise our hands, have a friend or a family member that does this? Okay. Okay. Or somebody at work. How exhausting is that, Glenn? How exhausting does that? Does that get it must get pretty exhausting, right?
Very exhausting. The person goes wherever the wind blows them. If someone says X, they get in a rage. Someone says Y, they get in a rage. But it's like, if this isn't accurate about you, why give it any energy? And I guess it's the mind.
Yes, it's the mind, and this is actually what they this is actually in fact, I want to read from. There's a book here. I don't know if any of you can get a copy of it. If it's in, I think it might be in our library there. It's called Meditation as Spiritual Culmination, Yoga Aphorisms of Patanjali by Swami Sarvagatananda. I think it's in our library. And this is so important because this is kind of what we also talked about in social media addiction. And every time we're always identifying, we can see it in our own lives, that sometimes we're calm. In fact, the definition of calmness is actually 1.3. 1.3 means what? The mind rests in its own nature. That's actually the definition of calmness. And 1.4 at all other times. So what does that mean? That means when we're not sitting in meditation, most of the other times we're in this state, to some degree.
Hmm.
Again, think of these things as percentage-wise, not 100%, but it could be, say, at times 50%, 40%, depends. So the idea is to, there's different ways, different techniques, how not to do this. We talk about this in Vedanta as this witness consciousness, watching the mind go on and on and on, and understanding that that's not me, that's just the mind. This is the Vedantic practice, this Dvigdrisha Viveka. And yoga, our idea is more that as we sit in meditation, watching these different thought waves come and go. Like we were doing when we were sitting for our meditation in the beginning today, we were watching our breath come and go. We were becoming aware. So same thing, when we sit for meditation, sometimes we try to concentrate on the Ishta Devata, and also other times we want to watch the mind come and go, not to get identified with the waves of the mind. Let's discuss this. Yeah, Violet, go ahead. Yeah.
Swami, so you kind of talked about it in a negative sense, that your mind, but would it also be in a positive sense? Say somebody says, "Oh, you're such a good person" or something, and then you identify with that too, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, Violet, that's a really good point. That's true. Yes, that's a good point. But who I think then, if that person has that kind of a control to put us in a good state, they also have the power to put us in a bad state too. That's the problem, So then we become like a slave to that person, to their opinions, and it's like that's the problem that we sometimes definitely we need that affirmation sometimes, definitely. Without that, it's difficult. But so that's the thing, and that type of identification, that this is more like a thought waves coming in our mind, an impulse is coming in my mind. I see this, say a wave of anger comes in my mind. Someone cuts me off when I'm driving. And at that time, when anger comes, so I'm fully become identified with that anger. I forget I'm Violet, I'm the spiritual aspirant, I'm this person with ethics, and I just become fully engaged in road rage at that time. So we see that so that's the problem with these things, that when we fully get identified with an impulse. Same thing, eating disorder, internet disorder. We keep eating, and it's like a bottomless pit. There's no end to that pit. Or like or drinking, for example. You get one, then another, and then suddenly we're in quicksand, and we don't know how to. In fact, in this state, the desire to get out gets weakened. That's the interesting thing. The willpower to get out gets weakened.
Swamiji, Swamiji, can I ask you a question? In both verses 1.3 and 1.4, right?
Yeah.
The drashta, the seer, either the seer goes in a state of calmness, or the seer goes in different tattvas and he's lost in different states, right? But no commentary. This is not an intellectual question. I actually read many commentaries, but I've never seen anyone reply to that. Who is that seer? Who is the drashta? If the drashta sees everything, why is he so much in a distorted situation? He's a seer. He's seeing everything. So why is he bounded and why is he free at times? You see what I'm saying? No one explains who is the seer clearly, right?
Yeah, Ratanji, but you are that seer. So
yeah, but he's
so you're that seer. So that drashta, because who is there to, when we actually realize that state, then there's who is there to explain to, because then we don't have any attachment. Then our mind is completely separated from every element of this universe, from the material objects to even our own identification with our own mind body ego complex. In the Sankhya, the last thing to go, I think, is asmita, buddhi and asmita. That means identification with one's own ego. When that
Yeah.
gets cut off, then there's no further modifications. Then who's Ratan at that time?
Yeah.
And who is there to tell?
Yeah. Thakur, in the Gospel, Thakur explains it very beautifully. He said, Brahman is crying and wailing, but it's all Brahman doing all this, allowing himself to be bounded. And it's him that's crying and wailing.
Yeah, well, Brahman, see, if Thakur said that, see, when we're actually Brahman's not crying and wailing. Brahman is that you are that.
Yeah.
Now, when we're identified with this material universe, then we're crying and wailing. If you're applying Advaita Vedanta, that's this Bhava this transactional reality. But Brahman itself is eternally free. Shuddha Brahma Atman. This Brahman is always eternally free. It's never bound or crying, but it's our ignorance that we're, to the extent that we're identifying with this material universe, that's the cause of our misery. So when I'm identified with this, to the extent I'm identified with my mind-body complex in this entire, to that extent, I'm crying and wailing.
Mhm.
Swamiji, I do have a comment about 1.4.
Yeah.
So, like when we are growing up, like I'm just thinking about myself and many people, like young kids, as when we grew up, we wanted affirmation from our parents, and then the loved ones, like the spouse or the children, and more importantly, we have self-affirmation that we need to make, and so like we have set goals and set this. I don't want to use the word desires, but the certain expectations is probably the word. We have certain expectations. And so we want to live by that. So those, I get that those are the ones that create the vritti, which results in misery. So do we not have expectations? How does that work?
Well, this is, and this is not, actually the Sarupyam means identifications with our own modifications. So, identified meanings that we're identified with different qualities of our own mind. So you're saying not to have expectations. No, we don't say that, but we say this, you see, we can't help. It's not like we can just cut off, not like we have that option, You're acting like you, me, and Ratan and Glenn, we can just snap, and Violet, we can just snap our hands and we'll be free. We don't have that on-off switch like that. If we did, then we wouldn't be here right now.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I mean, even if the expectation is God realization, it's still expectation.
Yeah, no, that expectation is something different. That won't bind. That doesn't give additional. But what our desires, not expect our desires, they bind us to this world.
Mhm.
And this is the difference. Anything towards God, that cuts us from this world. That does not create any karma, what they call this karma phalam, and it cuts us from this world. But any desire towards this world binds us. In fact,
it's actually,
so we sublimate the desires to God realization, like to something higher, to take us out of these vritti creating situations.
well, we'll get into that later on, but right now, we're just seeing like what this thing is. We use these words like something.
but I think the question is actually very, very beautiful question, because in the Buddhist philosophy, they say that this attraction is not simple. It's a chain.
Right.
It's like I see something, it leads something to my mind, and then I want it, and it's like a 9-step, very complex chain of attraction, right?
Yes.
That's why we're so stuck most of the time in sense pleasures, because it's very, very complex to get rid of, right?
And in fact, that's a really good thing. When we think of this vritti, that's a good point. It's a chain. Ramakrishna mentions that too. It's like you have to think of it like when you pull up a chain from the sea, it has so many other things. So
yes, exactly.
It's very complicated actually. And has many complexes over many many lifetimes. So it's not something that we can just easily cut off. We might think, oh, I just only have this desire towards chocolate. No, that might be connected with something else, which is intertwined with so many impulses and feelings of anger, greed, jealousy, lust. Everything is just mixed together. And these are what we're going to get to the next one, which is Klishta Vrittis. So let's go to number 1.5 right now. Vrittayaha. Do you guys all have that?
Yes.
Vrittayaha, Panchatayaha, Klishta, Klishtaha. Say, everyone try to say it. Vrittayaha,
Vrityaha,
Panchatayaha,
Panchataya,
Panchataya,
Aklishtaha.
Klishtaha.
Krishna.
Klishtaha.
Yes.
Klishta, klishta.
Vrittaya, Panchataya, Klishta, Aklishtaha.
Vritta.
Vritaya, Panchataya, Klishta, Aklishtaya.
Yes. So these are 5 classes of modifications. It says some painful and others not painful. So Swamiji later will talk about this is like a ground. This klishta means these kleshas. Kleshas means pain bearing, pain afflicting. This is klishta. Painful complexes, and they're in the form of impulses. Impulses that mean experiences, habits. They what do you call it? They become like a one big ball. That becomes like an impulse, a samskara, a tendency, which manifests in us. In fact, they can say that you can know yourself a little bit by your tendencies, but the tendency, our outer behavior, is only the tip of the iceberg. What's sprouting that is the cause, and this tendency, say, of anger, of reaction, this is all just in effect. Does that make sense? So sometimes I can solve one. That's why sometimes, like we, in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about this. You solve one thing, you cure that, then it goes to something else. Like rheumatism, they say it goes to another habit instead. So what's fueling that? What's fueling all this dysfunction in our own mind? It's these different kleshas. Now, just wanted to read what Swami Sarvagatananda says about 1.4 really quickly. Yeah, he gives one example. A man says something to me, causing me to become angry. Because of his words, instead of reflecting, I react. Don't react, but reflect. Even with no external cause, I can become angry because thoughts can arise that tip me off. People can be seen talking to themselves angrily. What happened? They remembered something. So this is something I want to make. It's not necessarily objective. This can just be, I'm just walking and suddenly some memory comes to me and I get angry. And you might say to your partner, what happened? So that's part of the austerity of being married, I guess. We're just living in a community.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
share a thought, and this always has troubled me.
Oh,
The scriptures, the yoga.
who's speaking? I don't see you. Can you speak
Shailesh.
yourself? Who?
Shailesh.
Oh, okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so my understanding about, so now you're saying that we should not be angry, or we should have just my understanding is that we are using mind and intellect here constantly.
Right.
And I think we go round and round using mind and intellect.
We can't hear, Shailesh.
I can't hear you, Salish.
Cannot hear me?
Yeah, now we could.
Now we can hear, but
Okay.
You come close to your microphone. Yeah.
So my point is that we use mind and intellect all the time.
he can't hear you.
Cannot hear it.
Cannot hear you. It's not.
Shailesh, why don't you write it? I will read it for you. Write it in the chat. I'll read it for him.
Okay, hold on. Let me put I have another. I think I can fix this.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
I have to leave. I have a meeting at 5:30. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear me now?
Namaste. And just one, like says right here that, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you better. Yeah.
Okay. So my thought is that just an opinion, just an observation.
Sure.
That we keep using mind and intellect to fix this problem. And my my practice, and of course this comes from the tradition. We are born and brought up in Ramakrishna. That's the way. We chant the Guru Mantra, we do our duties, and we have devotion and the constant remembrance of God. And it takes time. And then eventually all these factors do come to you. You don't have to use your mind and intellect. What we are trying to do is we do not practice. And then we keep on reading books, reading YouTube videos, or watching YouTube videos, and then we find that it's constantly, it's like covering the fire with paper. It doesn't happen. But if you go to the room, you sit quietly, meditate, chant Guru Mantra 1 hour, for years.
Right. Actually, so right. So Swami Vivekananda says again. We could go back to the beginning of the preface of Raja Yoga. Does everyone have the preface of? I don't have that. Does anyone have the preface of Raja Yoga? Can they just turn to that real quickly? That's there. Does any Glenn? You could read that. Go to the first page of Raja Yoga. Can you go to the first page there? The preface.
So what I have is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I think Lakshmi.
I have it if you want me to read it.
Yeah, go ahead, read that, because I think that will answer that question.
Can I read it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, since the dawn of history, various extraordinary phenomena have been.
No, just the beginning, the preface.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading. I'm reading the preface.
No, go to the epigram right before that. Go to the page before that. There's an epigram there.
Each soul is potentially divine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free.
Yes.
This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details.
Yes. So this is the answer I think that Swamiji gives. That it's not just one. We should not be fanatical that just do this, don't do that. Swamiji said, in fact, there was a conversation Ramakrishna used to ask. He would engage in debate between Narendranath and Master Mahoshai. He would ask them to debate between themselves. Then somebody like Ram Chattopadhyay came and said, what's the purpose of all these things? Just do bhakti. He said, no, there's a meaning in this. So we're not just intellect, we're actually very emotional. And we do work. We're devotees. We're a combination of all these different head, hand, and heart. So to really otherwise, if we just stick to one path, it'll be one-sided and our whole being won't be able to connect with it. We have to connect through it sometimes through the head, sometimes through the hand, sometimes through the heart, through all these different ways. This is what Swamiji says we should do. An all-around approach.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I just want to say, because Sarvagatananda, what he said about 1.4. So he says, don't react. Then he cites another example. People can be seen talking to themselves angrily. What happened? They remembered something. A past impression arose in their mind. Mm-hmm. There was a movie depicting two persons during and after World War II. Both were discharged. One came back and lived a normal life. He assumed that the other person was dead. Suddenly, this man comes to know that the other is still alive. He wants to take revenge. So all these things happen to a memory. This is all in our own mind. So many of these things we don't realize. We think it's something external, but actually we can just see how we can get triggered. Just even a thought can just come in my own mind, and that can just set me off. So that's with 1.4. In fact, how many of you here have heard of the marshmallow test? They did a study that said that they tested the self-control of young toddlers. They put marshmallows in front of them, and they said that how long can you control yourself? So if you can control yourself more, you'll get another marshmallow. So I was just seeing today that they actually can compute a person's body mass, whether they'll be obese or not obese 30 years later, the kind of job they will have, and many things just based on that experiment of whether they can control from themselves from eating this marshmallow in front of them. So this power of self-control is so powerful, and it's something that in fact, if you Swami Swahanandaji used to say this, that when he was superintendent at Chardapit, which is right next to our headquarters, Bellarmont, he asked the president of our order, what should we teach these young boys? And he says, if you can teach them just not to immediately react, just don't give immediate reaction, then that's enough. Learn to reflect rather than react, or learn not to show our anger immediately. In fact, just you know that they had that thing that parents tell this to their children, those are your parents, count first, whenever you get angry, maybe Lakshmi ji, you might have done this with your children, first count to 10 or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, my parents did that with me, but sometimes they shouted at me when they did that. So that it had the opposite effect. So, anyways, so this type of thing, so that's why, in fact, that type of idea of titiksha or restraint, I think there's a sloka in the Gita, matvasparsha stukonteya sitoshna sukadukkada agamapaino nityaha tamstitiksha swabharata. So that he's a that person is a spiritual aspirant who can control from cold and heat and pleasure and pain, because these things are coming and going. So this is probably one thing we can leave with today, that how can we cultivate that ability not to necessarily react? If we learn to do that, to the extent that we can do that, the ability to respond will slowly come. And I think that's a kind of a nice experiment we can try for next week, all of us, and we can just maybe see how it goes. Next time somebody says, this next week, let's try that. If somebody says something to us, if we would normally react, can we hold it for a little bit? Even 2 seconds, even 3 seconds. And then can we slowly start to extend it?
So Swamiji, both good and bad, or just bad?
You know, it's not so easy to, everyone likes good things, right? That doesn't take much reaction. That doesn't take much willpower to not react against good. It's the bad things. That's what we, that's, that I think we talked about that negative confirmation bias. That if Lakshmi ji, if someone says if Chetan says 100 nice things to you to the day, but he says one bad thing, you might remember that one bad thing and not the 100 positive things. This is this is an ubiquitous element of our own mind. It's fundamental to our own mind. It's just part of having a human mind.
Yeah.
That,
Swami, is this where austerities come in? So doing all these, could it help out with controlling that immediate reaction?
Thank you so much for saying. Thank you, Glenn, because I just thought of that today. And Brahmadas, are you there? Hello. Okay, we see Brahmadas.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. You can show. Are you outside or what?
I'm the cat's giving me a hard time. If you want to see that, I mean, I can go.
Okay, that's okay.
There we go.
No, I was seeing you and the cat, but that's not Davy Paw. That's another cat. Okay, that's fine.
That's Davy Paw. See, she's gonna crawl. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Around here.
So anyways, I think that what we were saying, that so this type of thing, I think Brahmadas, you sometimes talk about things at work as well. We all face different things. So to the extent that we can, to the extent that we can practice this simple thing of not immediately reacting, after some time, we might just see that what we thought was important is not so important to react, if that makes any sense.
What we thought was so important is not so important to react.
Yeah, to react to, yes.
Example,
like say someone said something about me, so immediately I don't say anything to him. I'm reacting, maybe I'm telling somebody, an independent person that I can trust, okay? I'm venting that. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna write that person an email, or I'm gonna call that person. So I try to call the person doesn't pick up. I'm about to send them an email. I try to send it, but then I see that the next day it didn't get sent out. Then the person gives me a call back and says, "Oh, Swami, you wanted to talk to me. What was that about?" "Oh, nothing. It's okay." That's what it happens to all of us. If we don't, it's like if we don't engage at that, if we can just hold on. And so that's a good thing.
Right. That reminds me, there was a letter that Lincoln wrote to his general after the
Yes.
Battle of Gettysburg that
Yes.
the general really screwed up.
Yeah.
And Lincoln was really angry at the general because the general could have won the war and ended it right there, and he didn't. And Lincoln was very angry when he wrote the letter, and the letter was never sent.
Yes, Lincoln was good. So you know what? It's an important thing to know. Everyone thought Lincoln did not have a temper. No, it's not about not having a temper. We can have a temper, but be careful how you express it to the person who's to another. If you have to express it, it's better sometimes to find a friend that we should all have, like I call it, a venting buddy.
Yeah, friends you can trust. Friends you can trust to talk to. That helps a lot.
And it should be someone, not necessarily, it should be someone that you know that they don't use it against you later on either. But that's really important. That's something that we should all have. In fact, Swami, that's an important thing. You don't have, even Swamiji sometimes got angry. So it's not about that. But we say that in Bengali there's an expression, Sadhuer Rag, Joler Dag. We mean the anger of a holy man is like a mark in water. So we should all be like that. And sadhu just means not only sannyasis, but just a good person. So that should be kind of like our goal, I feel. And so we can start with this. Okay, I think that any other points, because now we're past the time, but we can just, any other points then one wants to talk about from these?
Are you going to take a class on Sunday, Maharaj?
What was that?
Are you going to take a class on Sunday?
Oh, not this Sunday. We'll see, because I'm beginning that 6-week pilgrimage course now. And actually now that they've decided to change it, they're not charging anything for it. There was a donation before, and that's going to be something. So I'm preparing. It's going to be something really nice. We're going to maybe have sometimes live pujas, or have pujas done for everybody who participates as well in some of these different temples. So I would say that Violet, if you've never been to India, or even if you have been to India, this will be something I think very special. I think it'll be something that even when I did the thing on Kolkata, even people living there were devotees, they didn't know about this stuff. So I think this will be something really special. So you guys, it'll be every Tuesday from your time, it'll be 8 p.m. So all of you try to join. It'll be something I'd say something very worthwhile. It'll be something very memorable, I feel.
So would it be from 8 to 9?
Yeah, it'll be 8 to 9, 8 to 9:30, like that. Yeah. There'll be some questions. There'll be readings too. So if you can try to do the readings as well, the more it's going to be like a course. So the more you can do a little bit of, then the more we kind of get from it as well. Yeah.
I'm signed up for it. I wanted to ask. There's the like paragraphs. I just put that in the discussion part.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put that and the readings are there. So please, you can go through some of the readings, and that'll be good. It's not, you should go through it. If you can't, that's okay. But it's always better to do it. It's part of the process. Then, and that goes back to what Glenn said. Anything that we do, if we put a little bit more effort into it, I think that's what they mean by this tapas in chapter 2 of the Yoga Sutras. It's called Kriya Yoga. It's tapas, swadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhanani kriya yoga. So this tapas, it actually means that any habit that we want to overcome is going to take lots of effort, because for it to come means that it's already has lots of psychic energy. So like you were saying, Lakshmi ji, I don't know sublimation, but it's almost a counter thought. That takes lots of effort too, even just for one thing to undo. It's not so, to undo one bad habit. how much does it take? It's a very difficult thing to do. We think it's so easy, but it's actually one of the most difficult things to do. So I think that everything takes that type of self-effort. That's where this viveka, this vairagya comes, this viveka of reminding ourselves again and again. If we have some type of an addiction, okay, but I have to then take responsibility for that. I should actually mark that. I should journal that. If even one thing I want to correct about myself, whether it's my anger, whether it's my addiction to social media, just one thing we can choose, or drinking too much, whatever it is, we have to then become conscious. How do we become conscious? With a piece of paper. And every time we engage in that, we have to mark it. And we have to keep note of that. We should note.
I think Swamiji, if you do that, a lot of illness will disappear because many of our, being sick or illness has got to do with basically some bad habits or other we have. So
Yeah, illness. Well, illness also that could be, but I think main thing that we'll get, that's like a kind of like a life worth living if we're trying to stretch ourselves. If we're not trying to stretch ourselves and we're not trying to go beyond our comfort zone, then how do we grow then? That's where spirituality also comes too. So I think that it's really, really important. At least one thing we should try to stretch ourselves. One thing we should have every day in life. In fact, I feel that when Swamiji talked about this, the 4 yogas, one yoga that we should have our predisposition that we should keep trying to stretch ourselves. If it's meditation, then we'll be measuring how much did I meditate today? Okay, what's the quality compared to yesterday? If it's devotion, how much am I remembering God? If it's jnana yoga, then it's like what did I read yesterday? What did I read from the Gita, the Panchadashi? Did I apply that? What's the meaning of that? These type of one thing we should take that we play around with in our own mind and push ourselves a little bit. That's really important to do too.
Swamiji, I've found in my own experience something that really helps with
Yeah.
overcoming those habits is prayer. Things
Wow.
that were hard when I pray, I don't know, it just seems a little easier.
Wow. Well, Violet, you're very blessed then, because that's not actually that's a really good point. So this in Bengali we say prarthana, which means prayer, and yes, the hardest thing with that is to remember to do that.
But
Because
I feel like the prayer kind of sets, I don't know, it works in a weird way. It kind of sets that intention for yourself. Makes
so
it
if you why don't you share with us like what if you don't mind what's your practice of prayer?
I had some addictions that for a long time I really struggled to overcome, and I thought I would never overcome it. And one day I just really sincerely prayed, and I said, Ma, if this is keeping me from you, like help me to drop it. And I don't know like what the effect was, but it's made it easier for me, and I just dropped it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's really beautiful. I think that's yeah, that's yeah. Yeah. That's all I can say. That's you're very yeah, it's both what you say purushakara, self-effort, and also God's grace too. So um but it's yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's really very inspiring. Yeah. And and I think that what Violet said, to get to that point, that's not so easy. That takes lots of that's where the sensitivity, the mind becomes more and more sensitive. They say a yogi's mind becomes more and more sensitive to the pain and suffering. Otherwise, we're so unconscious of that. So we don't feel it. When it becomes intolerable, then we can only try to um, do something to get out of it. So that's not easy to get. That stage takes time to get to. Yeah. Hey, thank you. Okay. Hey, anyone else have anything they'd like to? Um, so for next week, then we'll do this. We'll do 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, And please, Glenn, you have that PDF, so please, maybe you could put that on the that WhatsApp group like that. I think that would be nice, and you could share that with everybody.
Will it be the same time, 7:30, or will it be 7?
It'll be 7:30. Yeah.
Okay.
7:30, yeah. 7:30.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We
So
miss having you here, Swamiji.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I also really enjoyed being there. So let's see. So let me end with a prayer right now. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Rama Krishna Paramastu. And I would say for that, just, I think that, yeah, I think that, it's a lively center. And I say, especially those of you that live a little bit close by, stop by. I think that's a nice thing. And that can be, I like that idea that, every Sunday people are coming to meet. That's nice. And other days of the week, you can go meditate there. And I think it's good, especially those that live kind of close by. It's easier for you to come more frequently. So that would be something great. I think if you guys can do that, I think Ramakrishna would be very happy. So yeah. Okay. Any program planned for this week? Anything planned for this week or? Okay. Okay.
Not yet. We might do like an open forum, town card. We do.
Yeah, there's also I met him, he's quite he's quite learned. He was Brother Shankara's friend, he's a Buddhist, Garth or something. What's his name? He spoke at the Garrett, I think, Garrett.
Garrett Young, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you can maybe invite him one time.
We have invited Garrett and also another person, what his name. Both of them we have invited. Jillian did invite. We are still waiting for responses.
Okay, that'll be nice if they come. And I think also I think you can send some. I think Jyoti and Gillian, I think they might have sent some responses, invitation to different swamis. I think you mentioned Medananda. You could invite him one time, and this Chid Brahmananda, invite him to come to center. I think do something once a month like that. I think that'll be nice. I think do that for now, because there's nothing now. I think that'll be good. Let's just keep some type of a flow going. That's really important. Yeah.
Okay, Swami.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay. Then sir, nice.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai
Jai
Ma.
Ma.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Yeah.